Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. You know, it's one of them situations where all you have to do is listen to a lot of these crazy people out there to find out exactly what they mean and what their intentions are when they get involved in a situation, when they get involved in an IP, or in this case, when they get involved in the entire video game industry out there. And the latest, of course, because it just seems like we can't ever go a couple days without finding another Sweet Baby Inc. article to talk about, because, ladies and gentlemen, one of the Sweet Baby Inc. employees out there admits that his goal is absolutely burning the game industry down to the ground, ladies and gentlemen. I think they've honestly done a pretty good job of that. All we have to do is look at games like Assassin's Creed Shadows and what they've done over there, Star Wars Outlaws, and then, of course, none other than Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and how much of a disastrous dumpster fire those games have turned into. It seems like absolutely everything Sweet Baby Inc. touches absolutely does indeed help burn the video game industry down, so it looks like, if nothing else, he's very much succeeded in his goal, boys and girls. And why? Why? Because it's all about white people and the patriarchy and yada yada other kind of nonsense that they believe everything has to be destroyed and remade in their very own image, because that's the kind of narcissistic psychopaths they really are, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to check out this article from thatparkplace.com, get into this article and see exactly what this moron has absolutely said. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Does this surprise you at all that this was absolutely their intended goal, that this was Sweet Baby Inc.'s goal, and a lot of these kind of activists inside of these corporations is exactly what their intent is to do, because they believe that anything that has come before them is wrong, inherently bad, racist, patriarchal, or whatever. They're the kind of nonsense buzzword they use, and that's why they want to destroy it. As we've said in the past, there is nothing these woke activists, these cultists out there, these people possessed by the spirit age will not sacrifice on their altar to their god, and that's exactly what we have right here, the entire video game industry. And once again, this is how we know what these people intend to do. This is how we know that every time they touch something that we see their name on it, it's automatically red flag. Why? Because they come out and tell you what their goals are, and that's exactly what we've got right here. So from thatparkplace.com, Sweet Baby Inc. employee admits goal is burning the games industry to the ground, by our dear sweet John F. Trent. A Sweet Baby Inc. employee named Cameron Wild, who claims to be non-binary, mentally delusional, admitted that this goal is burning the game industry to the ground. In a presentation titled How to Get Away with Murder, Subverting Genre Expectations. Wow! If that doesn't tell you exactly what they're trying to do. I mean, seriously, who titles something like that? The fact that this is always what it is about to these people, it's always activism. It's never about developing good games. It's never about telling good stories in new and engaging ways. No. It's all about the agenda. So at the Game Developers of Color Expo, discovered by YouTuber Kurtz, Wild introduces himself saying that he's a narrative design and sensitivity reader with a company called Sweet Baby Inc. Yes, a sensitivity reader. He reads things specifically looking for things that may offend someone somewhere out there in the world. That's a real job, boys and girls. But as like Eric July calls them, they're all just fake jobs. This is what overbloats these companies. This is what causes $4 and $5 and $600 million budgets on these games that cause companies like Ubisoft and so many others out there to lose money on these games, because you have a bunch of fake jobs bloating out your budgets. And this is one of them. Wild, who according to Movie Games worked on Tales of Concerner, Saw, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, Alan Wake 2, Color Us Shocked there, The Crew Motorfest, Kingdom 80s, and God of War Ragnarok. All games that have been labeled woke in one form or another. And that's all up to your opinion as to how far that's actually true. But as we've seen, these aren't franchises that did very well since these things have come out. I mean, literally, anybody heard what Rocksteady's up to as of lately? Because Warner Brothers ain't happy with them right now. Then declared the stories will tell each other the way they're more than entertainment. That's right. It's not just escapism anymore. It's gotta have a message. They're how we create debate and preserve our collective values and beliefs. No, this is how you push your agenda. This is how you push your values and beliefs on other people that want nothing to do to them, and you end up destroying video game companies and the industry in the process, which, like you said, was your goal all along. And we can and should make better, more expansive, more representational content. Oh, yeah. How's that working out right now? By the way, what happened to Concord anyway? Oh, yeah, That's right. That was real representational. That was all representation. How'd that work out for him? Then in a slide titled Cool, So Why Am I Here? One of the bullet points states, burning the game industry to the ground. That's literally his bullet point. Burning the game industry to the ground. Well, they're certainly doing a very good job of it because they have lost billions over the last couple of years by listening to these psychopaths. So in the next title slide, So Why Am I Still Here? One of the bullet points states, to prove that spaces where whiteness doesn't have to live is where come some of the best stories are told. Not only is that just grammatically a very poor structured sentence as well, but literally where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. So if the whitey's not around, that's when they can tell the great stories. That's what they need. They need to remove you if you're white, because then they can express themselves. Then they can tell the stories. Yeah. How are those decisions working out for the current video game industry? Wild explained, a lot of us are really fighting for more inclusive games and storytelling and don't have the choice when it comes to discomfort. A lot of us who are just existing don't have a choice. Oh, that's right. Just by just existing, the world hates him and he's so uncomfortable. Maybe it's because you're uncomfortable in the life decisions and the lies you're trying to live. Maybe that's why you're uncomfortable. Maybe it really doesn't have anything else to do with the rest of us. It's just your own issues that you need to work out. I know, strange concept. It's not the rest of the world's fault. You're fucked up in the head. Which makes this really hard often. But recently I started realizing the discomfort or the place where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. And that's where the genre storytelling lives. Oh yes, it's all about race, 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 race. He goes on to say that Blazing Saddles is a game that makes fun of whiteness and it picks on white people in the hierarchy, and actually it just picks on the ridiculousness of racism, which is why I would argue it's one of the best movies of all time. But when you try to use that as an excuse saying that, well, Mel Brooks was only able to pull this stuff off because he ran it by black people, while somebody else like Quentin Tarantino wrote the movie Django Unchained, which a lot of people were absolutely acclaimed as this brilliant thing. It wasn't something that I had any desire to see in whatsoever, because I thought it was just edgy being for the sake of edgy. But nonetheless, he says essentially that white people can't write black stories. That's essentially what his whole conclusion is, that the only reason Mel Brooks succeeded is because he allowed black people to double check all of his work, whereas Quentin Tarantino did not. That his whiteness and his ego should have allowed him to step aside to have a black story told, that he can't tell a black story. So you as a creative, if you're not black, you can't tell a black story. Now my question is, does this also apply to him as well? Because he's black, does that mean he can no longer write stories? I'm sure he'd probably be perfectly okay with not ever writing a white story again, but I think if you asked him that question, I think you'd have very much a different attitude and a different opinion on that one. So in the one ironic moment during the presentation, Wilde did share a nugget of truth. Ultimately, if you're telling a story that misses its audience, that doesn't ring true, or fails to cut in the right direction, the problem isn't that it's just insensitive. The problem is it's bad. And yes, the one nugget of truth that this insane person pushed out during their entire presentation is the truth. And guess what? Your agenda-driven storytelling, where you're forcing your spirit of the age beliefs and ideas onto people and into video games where they don't belong. And guess what? The world rejects it. Yes, your storytelling is just bad. Because if you cannot prioritize good storytelling over your activist agenda, you are going to fail every time. You can do activist storytelling done well. The example I bring up is Fern Gully all of the time, because that does not sacrifice its story to push an agenda. It is not constantly beating you over the head with things over and over again. It's not just race swapping characters for representation points, or gender swapping characters like we've seen in the new Mortal Kombat game just for representation points. Forced representation and forced diversity does not work, and that's why these games fail, because it does. It's bad storytelling. It's just bad, and it fails every single time. So it just goes on to taking down Tarantino, 10-minute reviews of Django Unchained, yada, yada, yada. He then wrapped up the entire presentation by sharing, good genre starts with representation on the creative team. The foundations of a project must be solid. Yes, you have to hire me and more of my friends that look and think exactly like me. Otherwise, you're going to fail. We're going to use mob tactics to come after you. But guess what? It doesn't work. It fails every single time. The identity of your characters, specifically your heroes, must define their challenges in the narrative, but it also must define their triumphs. Oh, yes. How your character identifies is more important to making sure it's an integral part of your story than any kind of actual relatable hero's journey. boy, I wonder why these stories fail. Finally, Wild claims that good genre must consider its relationship to power. Oh, yes, because that's what it always comes back to with the Marxists, doesn't it? It's all about power and control. It's never been about diversity. It's never been about inclusion. It's never been about equity. It's never been about any of the kind of buzzword nonsense, lies, and BS that they put out there. No, it's all about understanding the power structure and how it all has to be taken down. Because that's what it is, boys and girls. They are without power. Instead of being, because they are creatively talentless hacks that can't actually go out there and write any kind of good story out there, they have to take over other IPs. And they believe that is a source of power that they have to corrupt, take over, and completely and totally destroy, because it was built by someone that was smarter and more talented than them. So that way it's only their hot garbage, trash, divisive, and inclusive, quote unquote, nonsense kind of destructive games. That's what they want to do. That's what they mean by when they say they want to burn the video game industry down. They want to burn down everything that came before them, so the only thing you have left is their garbage nonsense. Well, guess what? That's not working. Companies are going broke because they are going woke and listening to people like he's employee of Sweet Baby Inc. and all of the rest of these similar consultancy agencies that are pushing the exact same kind of agenda-driven nonsense. They will fail time and time again. These companies will continue to go bankrupt if they continue to keep ties with these companies. And guess what? At the end of the day, they will get exactly what they deserve. Make the fans happy and we'll make you rich. Continue listening to people like this and we will sit back, laugh at you while you burn yourselves down to the ground and go bankrupt. Here's looking at you, Ubisoft.